Hmm. I can't quite get it working the way I want it to. I wonder what's going on. Let's see. Right, my layout. There. Odd. Something I have to double check next time. Oh well. This is a renaming thing anyway. Hello, Zero. Clueless. Of course, I reset my camera for some odd reason. Hello, Drax, Door, and give me a moment as I'm trying to reconfigure everything that I have here. Large. Nobody really cares if you're the first or not, Zero. I don't get it. There's so many people always typing first in comments and whatnot. Anyway, pardon, I am mildly irate because for the past 2 hours I've been troubleshooting getting my stream going. I've just reformatted my PC and I'm glad I can actually get things to a working state. At least far enough that I can talk with you. 2 hours, yeah. Had to reinstall Steam, reset up my pairing of all the controllers. Space Calibrator gave me trouble for an hour because I don't know why. But yes, alas, here we are. I hope my audio is alright. Why, if it isn't, it says Nord. Yes, Canadian Alex. Hi, Nord. Hi, Kudalin. Pardon if our chat was cut short last time. I was pretty much running on fumes. I should have enough juice after stream if you're up for a conversation. I'm at work, so I'll be lurking. See you around. I think I need to scale this down a teeny bit. There we go. Upsy daisy. My music. Hold on. Let me double check. Oh. There we go. Anyway. Where's the camera? Oh. I have lens visibility on. Wow. So much stuff resetting. There we go. I knew it was there all along. Hello, chat. I am super late today. I went to the rigors of reformatting Windows and, well, I'm back. Hooray. What's this? Also, I, for the life of me, cannot find two of my docs in OBS, which is one, the notifications whenever somebody redeems something like a hydrate, the TTS. Heck, even a follow or subscription, I'm unable to see that. I haven't even logged on my Firefox yet. Second, I have a feeling things aren't as synchronized as I want them to be. No, I'm not sure. I just copy pasted my OBS from my old installation to my new one. I need to double check things after stream, that's for sure. Now, reading chat. Hi, Tichi. Kudalin says you're fine, no worries. I totally understand how it is after stream. Perhaps we'll see what I'm up to at the time. You are a busybody that clearly does not procrastinate when it comes to texture work and whatnot. I finally heard Hazard talk. Oh, yeah? Well, how lovely was the voice, Blue? Judging by your laugh emote, you tell me later in a DM, Blue. The good music is back. Yes. Currently on my lunch break, so I can't stay long. I know I'm streaming at a rather odd hour, am I not? Let me have this in the front instead so I can talk to you. I have mixed feelings about my lighting. Do we blend it in? Zephyr. You need to focus on your computer then, Zero. Lino Zeno. Oh wow, there's so much things missing on my OBS. There's 3 docs. Streaming partially blind. The only real useful thing I have is saying my stream is online. And I can read chat. Howdy, Rook. I see you're in VC along with Nord. Was it? Let me double check. Ah, yes. Nord, Rook, and Beth. You guys are all enjoying Battlefield, which Yes, I'll play it later. It's a no pressure game anyway. I'm not gonna miss out on anything. Let's see. There's so much going on in general. Okay. Right. Anyway. I was in VRC a bit before, and Rook says I was just playing some games. I saw a certain axiom atom being there for a little while. Hope he's okay. It's Thanksgiving weekend in Canada, and my work is this weekend. It's not redundant. It's Thanksgiving weekend this weekend. So it should be like Thanksgiving this weekend. Sorry, I'm like nitpicking because I want to learn proper English. It's Thanksgiving in Canada this weekend, and my work is absolutely chaotic today. Manage. Dorian says I had fun with BF6 with Fluffy and Beth. Stop for a bit to get food and maybe do some War Thunder. Ah, alright. Somebody's been hooked to the snail, I see. I am really not feeling this lighting. Man. Cool. Maybe yellow. I blend in with my BG a bit too much. You may be wondering where I am. One. Presenting vehicle on the road. Presenting Geb sitting in front of said vehicle on the road. Why? Well, let's just say I was heading somewhere, and that somewhere has to wait until things get back in order. I had to get the cheapest cab, chat. Anywho, where were we? Right. He is in the entry part. Yep, I'm so close, but I said, you know what? It's late. I'm just going to go stream before I can even reach like the inner parts, which is barricaded today for some reason. I don't know. The funny orange stuff must be, you know. That you're new at next to you? What do you mean, Fluffy? You're new one. Man, this is weird. I am unable to see anybody that's going to raid and whatnot. Is that your new Africa twin? The Tuk Tuk 3000. Yep, definitely. At least it keeps me dry during the rain. It's better than nothing. Hope you're feeling better than I am. I'm feeling swept. Thanks to a lick of melatonin, I was able to go sleep at 2:30 p.m. my time instead of like 6 the other day. Think of it as sleeping at 2:30 a.m. instead of like 6 a.m. and that's definitely healthier. You gotta put some decals to make it fast. Also, hold on. What is with my eyes? Strange shading. Let's fix that. Is that lighting multiplier? No. Minimum brightness. No. Shadow bias. No, that just makes me lose all detail. What? Oh, that's kind of cool. So I need to put a mask on the eye. Up 1%. Back body. Aha. No. It didn't work. Anyway, a tuk tuk with a big engine in it would be really funny though. I remember there being a video of a tuk tuk being retrofitted with a Hayabusa engine. It's a 1300cc inline four motorcycle engine, and it looked really funny. More fun than funny. For a moment, Geb struck. It's better than the oddities I used to experience the other day. When I was in VR chat, all of a sudden my play space it tilted by around 15 degrees. Looking like a deer caught in the headlights. I think that's Reed, not me. I can't tell. Just quite a nice voice. Enchanting one could Right. Why is that who I think it is? If it ain't Lucifer Jade, how are ya? I mean, I understand our messaging, our attendance being rather sporadic, given your how should I say it? You being quite literally overseas and oceans. How are you, buddy? Everything going okay on your end? A pleasure to see you on stream. The last time you were here, I was like pre-moving to the apartment. Now that I think about it, thank you so much for the help. I appreciate it. What's this? Headset battery is low. What? Really? It can't be. I just charged. Or because I've been troubleshooting for so long. Oh, do not die on me, my friend. There we go. Whew, close. The longest one I've ever been on, and I hope everything is well on your end. Oh, way, yep. Hold on, I am changing batteries. So the re-image was a success. I didn't re-image per se, Beth. I just started from scratch. Thank goodness there was an option when reinstalling Windows where I could just sign in my Microsoft account and it would synchronize all of my old like settings and whatnot. All of the apps are gone, but I managed to get the core systems running. I got Discord, I have Steam, I was troubleshooting VR chat and all of my tracking stuff to be working. for the past 2 hours and a half prior to stream. Ooh, Unity in Blender isn't quite there yet. Maybe this weekend when I. Who am I kidding? I'm gonna be playing all weekend. Maybe next week. Thank goodness I don't have anything pending avatar wise. You know how I am when it comes to dabbling with things. And what else? Oh, God, Photoshop. Reinstall Substance. All sorts of stuff. Yes. Live support activated. Oh yeah, I gotta spiff up my Blender too. I have no idea what's going on in my stream. Like if anybody's following, anybody's this and that. I don't even have my Twitch logged on the browser, so I can't open that and look at that for notifications. I resized some bones today, says Fluffy. But Unity didn't seem to like it. Troubleshooting is fun. What do you mean Unity didn't seem to like it? Let me guess. You resized it, like just lented the knee. Okay. I remember there being a handy utility in order to make the proportions of your avatar better. Wow, name of said plugin for Blender is something I have yet to recall. But I'm pretty sure it had like VR chat proportions thing. Well, no, cats is necessary in order for you to apply the rest pose more conveniently. Like the new proportions you've like set, but it was something else that worked in conjunction with cats. Unfortunately, my Blender has been wiped, so I will have no idea what it is. Oh well. Pumpkin. No. It had the word proportions in it, so it should be an easy thing to find. But if there's anybody you need to ask, Fluffy, my knowledge, my scope of it, pales in comparison to somebody who's present on my stream right now, and that would be Kudaline. She is the expert, anything avatar wise. I just know a few things here and there. As Good says. To be honest, Pumpkin's avatar tool for Unity has saved my butt so many times. And she screams until it works. That's her secret, apparently. I procrastinate until it works. Nordic says, Geb, I firmly believe that you know more than you say you do. Oh, please. Look. I'm just glad when I get to make things work when they should. There. Okay, where were we? Why are your 6 ears so cute? You should ask each and one of them. You're probably gonna get either 6 different answers or a unified one from all things. Blender. Ironic. When I find myself with a mood that is on the lower side of life's wheel, I just open up Unity or Blender or even Substance and see if I have anything to do and improve. The sense of accomplishment I get from tackling a problem is what gets me going. Like, I did it. I fixed the clipping. Oh, I finally resculpted the overstretch on the edge of my lips when I smile. And I can show it to my friends. I'm sure a lot of you can relate with your Zen Garden program of choice, like Nord here is with Python. Fluffy says, I will try to learn myself before I seek help. I feel like I learn more when I'm trying to figure it out myself. Lucifer Jade says, Geb, I would stay longer, but I can't tonight. May you have a swell stream. Jade, thank you so much for dropping by. I appreciate you being here. Feel free to come and say hello when you're free again. You see, Lucifer Jade here. If you were here before, he gave me a challenge on stream. It was a little bit of detective work. And there was a huge prize on the line. Like 4 digits worth. He had me knurl my brain so it'd be sharp enough in order to get the answer. And of course, he's an absolute lover of the wagers as well, with me and my coin. Unfortunately, he's quite busy nowadays, so yes. I think, Fluffy, one of the best ways to enjoy Blender or Unity is co-working with somebody with more experience and a basket full of patience. Because at least YouTube tutorials are there. Yes, but these are a set of rigid instructions, inflexible when you have a question. Like, how do you scale this again? Like, can I do it in edit mode or in post mode? Like, something like that. And if you have somebody on the line helping you with it, mistakes tend to be avoided easier. Beating your head against the wall makes it stick in more. A method of retaining learnings from Biff that I have yet to explore. Wonder if it's as effective as making sure the objective succeeds by rolling over your teammates in the FRV. Hey Geb, how have you been lately? Not flipping. I'm okay. I reformatted my PC. Yes. The thing. If it works, it works. Sure. I have spontaneously appeared. I hope you don't spontaneously disappear. Hello, lemongrass. This is weird. I have no idea how many people are on stream. I'll just assume there's like several. Like, a billion watching. Hydrate! Ha! I came prepared. I have my small water bottle. Yeah. Unrefrigerated H2O. Lovely. Please don't spit on my knuckles. Yep. That overshot into my esophagus a bit. Anyway. Oh, shucks. 30 plus is Mitzi. I see. Huh? Quite the number. What are all of you 30 plus you viewers doing here? I'm just stuck on the road with not the best lighting. Also, you may be wondering, Vesper, where art thou? She is currently working at the moment, so it's just me. Hi, Brie. That's dangerous. I need to put the camera a teeny tiny bit down. Hello? Ah, I see. So if we adjust this from 33, there we go. A mildly better lighting wise. How's it look on scene 2? Scene 3. Okay, maybe not. This works. Fluffy coming in with the not burnt clutch. Thank you for Warming up tonight's stream with the first little sprinkly dew of coins. Maybe we can get going soon if our aid comes. Sprinkly dew down. Yes. Look at all these Burby emotes. Is that a blue bird with yellow eyes? That's adorable. Maybe I need to reconnect my Twitch account to OBS in order for the missing details to show. Chance mayhaps. But my frown seems to be quite sensitive. Let's put the frown back up and so the smile. Stay safe and healthy, says Crowbread. The weather has been getting everybody sick nowadays. I know, right? Thank goodness I live in essentially what is an asylum. My black padded walls, all soundproof. No sunlight permeates my place aside from the diffused one from my air conditioning's little gaps. I'm fine. I appreciate you checking up on me, though. So the light is from underneath. Hello. You're telling me. There we go. 50. Wow, I look red faced. Just like pin 1, pin 2. Nope, that is incorrect. I'm trying to get my lighting correct. Oh, this is such an odd shot to try and composite myself into. Ah, yes, look at it. Reflections. Ain't it cool? Nordic says, Hold on. It says not fluffy. What is going on? Makes me most curious. Get the photogenic lizard. Do I look photogenic, Chad? I think I'm just creative when it comes to making the most of a not so good situation. Maybe here, maybe there. Oh. My depth of field is rather narrow. Totally not me removing the decimal. Oh, of course. How could it be you, Fluffy? Of all people. Thank you, Chip Enjoyer. Definitely not Biff. Absolutely not the Demon King himself. I hope the big Gebo is doing me big. I am but very modest in verticality. I'm big in oh god, if I go in the first I'm big in other places though, which definitely means something wholesome. It's not gonna be perceived as wholesome. I'm gonna shut up. Hi there, Trigo. I'm doing okay. Lots of people are wondering how the streamer is doing himself. I'm okay. I'm just a little how should I say this? Like, I can't sit still because I have a bunch of Windows work I still have yet to do. Reinstall some programs, my missing docs in OBS. So I have no idea who's subscribing, who's following, and who's redeeming what. I, among other things. Oh, I have to reboot and get secure boot on so I can play Battlefield. Um, what else? Well, for me, you're big. I'm still the Valley. Valleys are space chickens. You guys are naturally below waist height. He's big in Japan. That's true. My fellow Asians seem to be rather small. Walking nuggets, except they have the crispy metallic bits. Okay. I like my chicken cooked. Thank you. I didn't know that if you reformat everything you've set on your avatar in VR chat does not carry over. I thought it was like saved in the cloud or something. No, it's about to dependent on your cache. That took a while too. They can be vicious little creatures. Oh, I bet. You know, I'm still afraid of pigeons because of, well, they can land that critical hit when they peck your eyes out. Hello, Ash. Whoa. Nonsense. Just think how many activities you can fit on this hard drive now that it's cleaned up. I am now back around 1.6 terabytes of free space on my main drive. There was a lot of junk I was able to offload, huh? I moved it over to my NAS. I had to reinstall New World and Battlefield. Thank goodness Helldivers was on a separate drive, so along with my other games. Activities. What pray tell activities can I do with a hard drive? Oh, I have to get my internet download manager again. So much stuff to relog into after installation. Diskity disk. Absolutely
Gotta
not.
go have a good strain.
Okay, I'll see you around. Absolutely not, Fluffy. Oh my god, I want Africa to win so bad. Anyway, how is your evening going, everybody? You've been asking how I am. I return the question to you. I'm going to pull the manlet thing. The voice of AI, okay. Well, definitely not Fluffy because the decimals have been restored. Disc. And the Demon Lord, right? The Demon King is currently rather hamstring at the moment because there was this whole government mana crystal shutdown going on, and he has not been able to replenish his magic. Oh my goodness, look at the forces of light starting to take the lead. You are in the headlights. Yes, I am. Ah, yes. What's up, Gibbs? I'm alright. Hmm. A squeeze in the right spot. Let's see. Beth. Definitely not Beth. It sounds like an American sitcom from the 2000s. Definitely not Beth, but and then like scene transition. This I was just emailed about the new pressure plushies. Pressure plushies are these little stuffed toys you have that sits on the desk while you work on Blender and say, "Do better. You have horrible topology. What is that weight painting? You disappoint me ever greatly so." Pressure plushies. It motivates you, whether it be good or bad. Short cues. Question: where are you from? I am from Southeast Asia, the Philippines. Ah, yes. To have your streamer to be 100% Asian, yes. Sorry, what am I? What am I stressed? I was getting caught. So yeah. Hi. Makes me curious. How did you pick up English? The Philippines is surprisingly a very well-versed English-speaking country, to the point that you go anywhere, well, people will know how to communicate with an English-speaking person to a certain degree. So yeah. As for me, I guess I just attribute it to practice. Me wishing to speak English with my friends, my family, and it sort of just evolved. I was the type of student back in high school and college to always volunteer for readings, presentations, theatrical, like the impromptu, um, little, what do you call this? Shit, what's that in English? The little impromptu presentations you have to do in class. Ah, yes. It's fun, I suppose. I guess I've always wanted to act, now that I think about it. Following in the footsteps of my parents, except they're on a completely different league. Oh well, I ended up in a certain niche of my own. Improv, there we go, improv. I have fun with improv a whole lot. Which reminds me, maybe we can do this thing called Audience Anarchy the next time we have a little meetup. Also, hello, love. How's your shift going, Vesp? It seems Vesper is rather busy today. Lots of stalking and whatnot, maybe. Beep, boop, bag this, bag that. Good morning. Good afternoon. Thank you, sir and ma'am. You have a great day. If I am to follow the light being accurate, the red should be on my right side. Increase in intensity. There we go. Good evening, Doc. Funny, it was God Rat in my stream last time, and now there's God Duck. Hmm, lots of divine beings in the form of diminutive animals. It's been busy and slow at times. Vesper continues, audience anarchy can be fun. I used to play it with another friend group, and it's basically Mad Libs mixed with acting chaos. Sounds funny. Definitely something we can probably do to bring some of the people out of their shells. Yes, I used to play Minesweeper along with that funny pinball. Space Arcade or something was it? Solitaire. A Minesweeper. That's it. I've never tried Audience Anarchy, says Nord. You know what? Same here. That's why I'm suggesting we try it one time. Space Cadet, sorry. Space Anarchy. What is that? Space Cadet. Wow, I am absolutely red, aren't I? Holy, look at that. I would make it fresh, ripe tomato envious with my complexion. How about my full body cam? How does it look? Super red. Alright, I see. Okay, so back. Red and green. Yeah. I may need to do a third light at, which gives me RGB instead of like coal. Never mind. I'm gonna start talking about like trade secrets. This splash. They actually got that machine at the 7777 arcade. Ah. I haven't been to an actual arcade with like the American football game where you have to pull stuff, or with the pinball, the slots machine. Like, okay, maybe that's a casino. The arcades we have here in Asia, when I used to go to them, was it was this thing called Time Zone. So we would buy these rechargeable cards, right? Like, hi, I'd like $10 worth of game, please, and it would be like 20 cents per try, and then we just like chuck me inside, and then we can play Time Crisis, Lethal Enforcers, House of the Dead, and whatnot. Vesper says, I've been to arcades a select few times. Chuck E. Cheese in round one in particular. Chuck E. Cheese. It makes me curious now. Thanks to Vesper having filled me in with the whole FNAF lore, our American diners from the 80s and 90s really filled with animatronics and whatnot. That's kind of decent. I mean, I understand mascots and costumes, but like robots? Nard says it was the only fun times I had when I was young. The arcade, that was before games was easy to get online. Ah, yeah. I mean, what did you used to play back then in the 60s, Nord? What arcades were there? Were arcades even a thing? FNAF was mentioned. The biggest FNAF nerd here on stream is Vesper. Oh god, the lore of Chuck E. Cheese is funny. Yeah, what's the lore, Bev? Fill me in. In the 60s. Oh no, not 60 yet. 60s. Don't worry. 60s or like early 70s. I don't remember. You should know. I mean, you said you were. Wait, hold on. My math is off. 80s, sorry, 80s. There we go. Bah humbug. Boulder Dash. I listened to a fat electrician who did a video. Why you gotta mention that they're fat? You now remind me of like the fat plumbers when they're like underneath the sink, right? And then like their butt can like start accepting coins, or you can swipe credit cards in it. Lauren says you were there, Nord. You should know, unless your memory is that bad already. Oof. Get that not British salt being sprinkled. I'm pretty good with a lot of different games. I've gotten to know the FNAF lore pretty good, but not as good as Vesper here. God. I remember her saying that she watched the FNAF movie like 5 or 6 times. And when we used to hang out before, when she was still on Quest, the thing that I would catch her, like that would be playing on the video player, the world that she was like napping on, would be it was the Ball Pit FNAF game. It's streamers always playing. His handle is that old. Oh really? Into the pit. Yeah, into the pit. Kendall says a fed up veteran that went to the trades and does a lot of research on his free time. Ah. Luffy, I'm going to bonk you with a comically large rubber hammer. I imagine something else rubber. Like a slipper. Yes, totally. 100%. Hmm. Hello. Curious. Should I be doing like little announcements on Twitter that I'm streaming? Because I've been getting a lot of comments here saying, "Oh, Gib, I didn't know you were streaming." So I wonder where I get those little clips that I post on social media from. That's rather Asian of you to say, Gib. Yeah, a slipper. Oh, man. How many times have I been spanked and punished by my parents? Well, my parent. A whole lot, I can tell you. Well, Gib, you've done bad. Now lay out your hands. Gets a big like meter stick and then like smushes you in the hands. Gib, you shouldn't have put alligator clips on that dog of ours because you were curious and about how fast it could run. Okay, go kneel in this basket full of salt for 3 hours. Yeah, it's fun. And then when the physical stuff stopped working, it was more, oh, Geb, so you didn't do great in this subject, which I told you to study for. No more computer for 1 month. Heck, I could only use it for 1 hour a day in the first place. What punishment did your parents give you when you were younger, chat? I'm curious. If you're from the Philippines, you'll know what I'm talking about. With my earlier examples. While we're waiting on that, Vesper continues on the FedNAF discussion, saying, but yes, lots of lore to unwind, but rambling about it would waste time, especially with the new information from Secret of the Mimic. Ah, so deprivation of things that bring you joy. Nord. What's this? Here's one. You can watch America's Underground Cheese Bunkers. You learn about our impending cheese apocalypse. I am not surprised anymore. Like, if there are aliens that show up, and I see it on the news that they've made meetings with Martians, then a handshake, it'd be like, oh, cool. And then I would just like go about my day. Sort of like how Marvel reacted to the big snap, or I mean, after the battle for New York, the people aren't surprised anymore. My parents used to take away my Game Boy Advance if I failed any certain class. So them taking away what they assume is distracting to us. I see. Mitzi says most punishments for me were timeouts in the laundry room. Other times it's being told to go outside and no more screens for the rest of the day. I wish that was a punishment at work. Like, Gabas! Go outside and no more screens for the day. Oh yeah, sure, boss. Of the punishments that weren't terrible, says Vesper, my dad would have me stay in my room and take my books away. And you were left staring at the ceiling? That's boring. How to punish a child effectively? Boredom. Lemongrass says, I was whooped. That didn't work. I got stood in the corner. That also didn't work. I got punished to stay outside all day. That didn't work because I love the outdoors. They took away my game consoles that I had at the time. Mainly my GameCube. That didn't work because I stayed outside more. So it's always just taking away the computer. Pretty much. I feel sorry for any alien that decides to come and visit us. Because we are so barbaric, we're going to... That's true, we are a truly barbaric race. No, rather the people that are in power are those that are barbaric. But then again, I wouldn't mind an alien dissection or two. I would like trade, like, hey, have some like humans here that are not that important and do what you want with them. You can do the same with us. Exchange, yeah. Fox says, my parents would also forbid me from going or inviting a friend. Oh, that's the worst. Where I couldn't like have a landline call with my friend. Because before, when I didn't have a computer, we didn't have like instant messengers and whatnot. And texting each other was very expensive at the time. I would just go down on the phone and then toot, 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 toot. Hi, good evening, yes. Can I talk to Mr. Toot? Oh, he's still eating? I'll call back in 15 minutes. Sure, okay. Thank you, Mrs. Toot. All right, call you later. And then I call again. I'm on the phone, right? It has the little twisty cord on it, so I can't go far. I would turn on the kitchen TV and then we would watch. Hey, look at channel 31. And then we would talk about it online. That's how I used to pass the time. Really fun, actually, now that I think about it. The first popcorn palace. Every time I get a chance to stop in here, I can't help but stare at the marvelous model and tracking. Welcome to Geb's unorthodox setup of lighting tonight. I wanted to see how I could fit in the scene better compared to my usual setup that I'm already comfortable with. Maybe I need to pop my collar up. That would look better. There we go. Make sure a better side profile. We have a landline phone for the longest time until we moved a few years ago, says Mitzi. That phone was mostly called by spammers and scammers and spam. I have yet to have a phone call that scams me. I don't know. I've had the landline until a few months ago. The only real people I call on it was, well, my internet company. Hi, welcome to Globe Telecom. If you want it in English, press 1. If you want it in Tagalog, press 2. If you want it in English and Tagalog combined, press 3. Please press the number after the beep. And I had to do that 8 times. Man, it sucks having to go through the motions of that. A house phone, yes. Nordic says, oh, a landline. Yeah, go tell the younger generation that we used to have a phone in the home that everybody could use. It is, it's true. Right? Back when Popcorn Palace used to be called Movies and Movies and Chill, huh? To be fair, Popcorn Palace is a very important world in VR chat. Very. Why would they ask for combined? Sometimes your grasp with English isn't that great. Your grasp in Tagalog isn't that great too. But you like mix and match your words. You see, in the Philippines, we have this thing called Taglish, Tagalog and English combined. It's an oddity where we are me, for example, I am considered fluent in English. Most Filipinos would go, I can talk English. Okay, it's okay. It's not very good. Pero minsan my words like they start to insert Tagalog words into it to make up for the English words that they don't know. And that's what we call Taglish. Yeah, we do have that sort of accent. Absolutely true, and it would be connected with a wire, and you can only go so far. Yep. And then once you have like the perfectly wound up wire start to kink in an odd way where it's like a letter U and you don't know how to fix it. It was funny. Landlines, a fun time. Mitzi says, or the times when the family would have to take turns with the phone during the dial-up days. Oh my god, don't remind me of that era. Like you're playing your online game and all of a sudden, click, click, click. Why am I not moving? Oh, somebody's using the phone. Yeah. Hello, Krista. A pleasure to have you here on stream. How's your studies going? Wow, what is this? Itchy. Kendall says, I swear my mother had 100-inch long coil cord. Like, that's crazy. Thankfully, no studies today, says Crystal. All caught up until Sunday. Great. Foot, inch. Imagine 100 feet long. You could go to your neighbor's house, like 2 houses down, if you have something that long. And then it extends even more. Popcorn Palace, huh? I wonder how. Popcorn Palace is gonna be once the big screen beyond us in everybody's hands. Why, if it isn't Shop? I was just thinking about you a few days ago. I wonder how my wayward neighbor is. I keep on telling Chat that she has to go through several hours worth of commute every day just so she could reach her academia. And not only that, she's swamped with stuff. And she has to go to school pretty much the whole week. So I understand her absence. And then I talked about how you make such nice art. It's the stuff that I keep pinned on my Discord. I hope you're doing well, Shoppa. What I mean by neighbor is she is like 5 minutes away from where I live. So small world, huh? Small world. Yo, Pao, maganda na yung apartment. Pwede nang tambayan. Hindi na siya masigip. Gagi, may sofa na. It's the biggest upgrade ever. I'm doing my best to be the best I can be. The struggle. I'm sure you got this, champ. That was meant to be like a closed fist, but yes. Natutuwa siya. Oh yeah, he's been having the zoomies. 100%. Where were we? Just taking a break from work on my portfolio and reviewing. I have midterms later. You have been studying all night. It's 4:18 a.m. and you have an exam. I hope that exam is sometime late in the afternoon, not in the morning. Or my brain would be dead if I were in your shoes. 10 a.m. Oh, best of luck and rest in peace, Shoma. Good luck, buddy. Good lie. Just joking. Rest in peace. As kaya mo yan, ikaw pa. Sus. Easy. Hi, Geb. Greetings from Venezuela. Funny, we have a place called Valenzuela here. It's up north. But nice to see you here. Wow. Ba, ba, da, ba. Ba, ba, ba. A challenge for Gib. All right, Nord, what would it be? You're gonna play flip the coin. No yawning for the rest of the stream, and I'll tip you $2 million. All right. And with that being said, thank you for joining in today's stream. It's going to end in 1 minute. I appreciate you being here. So, in theory, the longer I go, the more at risk I am. Time to have a cup. Time to have a cup of coffee. You know what? I would not mind. A very light cup of coffee with no sugar. To pep me up and to make sure I get that $20. $20 is $20, man. Oh, joy. I'm so I'm conflicted. I want to go hang out in VR chat today. Some folk and whatnot. At the same time, I wanna. I wanna go play. How's Battlefield, Beth? Having fun? At the same time, what? Well, important things, pa. Important battle style. Coin flipping. If heads, I play a little bit of VR chat after. If tails, no, if dead, I go log off and then go play. I think I'm staying in VR chat for a while, chat. Very fun. Oh, I bet. Oh, note to self: add colliders to ears so that when it touches the collar, it actually moves it subtly, more so than what it had. Anyway, sorry, solid or something. Why not both? I've been considering that, Mitzi. I've seen a setup in which I am in VR in a very, very, how do I call this? Undemanding world. And then I just have a window with my game open and I just play in VR chat with the game open. So you can still see me essentially. Yes, that actually sounds fun. And feasible. I saw people doing that before on cliffs. It's something I have to explore. It's gonna be demanding and how do I even do that? How do I have my indexes as my controller? Geb, I would love just laying there and watching. Ah, man. Surprisingly, Complex 7 has a really pretty sky. Stars that are moving. Anyway, where were we?
Half a year.
Half a year from Holy Guacamole. My goodness, has it been that long already? How quickly time passes, is it not? Thank you. I appreciate you sticking around. I'm curious. It's a very real concern pretty much any streamer would have. At what point does your most loyal viewers start to move on to other content creators? Is it a matter of time? You doing something consistent yet it ends up being boring? Or if you change what you're doing, all of a sudden they don't like the theme that you're into. It all depends on the content. True. That is one benefit gamer streams have, because there's always a dynamic change in the content that they play. What I offer is simply a change of scenery and conversations. I think it's a bit of both, but it also probably depends, says Mitzi. Like I said, it is a risk all are faced with, watchers and friends alike. You've been here a long while, Shops. Natanong mo na yan all, kuya. It's all dependent on their time, situation, and growth. One of the bigger things I've noticed from content creators is when there's a controversy, a polarized one, if they play their cards right, they get a big surge in popularity. Ooh, look at our champion. If you do the opposite, you choose the quote unquote wrong side, the side that social media isn't on. Usually the morally correct one. Or sit on the fence. You end up being villainized. That's why I have zero intention of dabbling with any of that. Clout. Yeah. Gross. Some people watch streamers for personality. Some people watch as a somewhat parasocial relationship. Others are just simply bored. That's true. I've seen it a lot in the female streamers, especially where they have the parasocial thing going on. I mean, inadvertently, it's going to be there. But they sometimes foster it to such a degree, or sometimes the chatters are this illusion that, hey, let's keep on giving money to the streamer, and then maybe they may start being romantically interested in me. Let me break it to you, pal. That's not how it works. And even if you're afforded romance by any means, don't consider that genuine. I guess that's what the bit of a difference that I have here. I end up being actual friends with most of my viewers because I see the people, the community that I wish to establish, to have, to maintain. Other people just let anybody in and stick around just so they can raise their numbers, their viewers. I don't mind me growing slower as long as the people I keep here actually mesh well with each other. And it's a nice space where we can breathe and not walk over eggshells. No stinkers, too. Hello, Rail. No, we have Rail here. I believe he is just like Nord, a person living, born from a bygone era. Crystal says, we only have so much time on this earth. I'd rather be comfortable around people that accept all and deal with all the problems that come with it. Yeah, me, I just leave the problems outside the front door. I don't want it like being in the house. I know a lot of us are going through struggles, challenges in life, and difficulty. But I don't like that to be the meal being served at the dinner table. I'd rather throw energy towards little accomplishments, gifts we have given ourselves, advances, and steps that are going forward. Hello, fellow oldie. Greet Nord to Rail. Yapao says, yes, spend your life with ones that love and care for you. Focus on your life and what makes you happy and safe. Precisely. Pick your company, that's all. We're not going to be compatible with everybody, so I won't hold it against you if you guys want to skedaddle or I never see you again. That's okay. That's why you dropped by anyway. You're curious. Am I going to like this streamer, what he's talking about, his personality, his worldviews? If not, then please, by all means, there's tens of thousands, hundreds even out there that you can pick. I'm not one of many. If you do stick around, though, thank you. No problems. You can stay out on the front porch and have a good time. You're not coming into the house, as Lemongrass is precisely. Crystal says, yes, I am certainly learning how not to deal with people's problems anymore, or the drama that some people carry with them. Oh, the moment people have drama as baggage and they bring that into a discussion, I have learned to just, yeah, no, nobody. Unless you and I are like lifelong friends already and some crap came up, then yeah, I'll help you. But if we're like acquaintances or just like generic friends, yeah, buddy. Gab isn't a selfish streamer, says Xiaopao. He isn't gonna hold anyone hostage. Gail says, finally out of work. Gab, can you do a coin for me? Scals, I sort out my VR. Art means I play Baldur's game. For you, blue shirt. Get ready to hop back into the lands of Faerun. Lord says, I can say for Geb is an awesome person. His community is great and full of fun and awesome. Flattery. Thank you. The only reason I'm as close as I am with Geb, says Vesper, is because I genuinely engaged in conversation and started opening up and having fun. Never at any point was he fostering a parasocial relationship. Yeah, look, listen. When I make lies so painfully obvious because its intention is for comedic effect. Like, yes, give to the Blue Arrow Foundation. All the starving African dragons shall be given rations if you move and donate to my little fundraiser over here. Like that sort of thing. Like I try to make it funny. But if I actually lie, like certain streamers that I know and observed, like guys, I have a medical thing. I'm so sorry. Oh God, it's so difficult being a single mom. Oh, please give me money. But in reality, you find out that said streamer is just spending money on like fancy bags and shoes or like toys. It just doesn't sit right in my conscience when you do that. I can't. Unfortunately, one of my greatest weaknesses is having a conscience that oh so eagerly gnaws at me from the inside. I'm an overthinker and I feel guilty really quick. That's why I try to work around this weakness by having a sound foundation of logic and thought processing going on in my head. Is it worth feeling guilty over this? Not really, I don't care. But when I do like care, my emotions are like fully on the table. I guess my heart's like an on and off switch. Either I like you or I don't. You're a good person with boundaries. I try to remind people to have a little bit of courtesy and common sense when around me. Crystal is making a point of protecting her peace from those people. I want more relaxing this. Yeah, precisely. It's tempting to go dive into gossip and whatnot. Ooh, that's juicy. I see. Yeah, you know what? I think that person's yada yada yada. Then you realize you're turning into the very scum that you mock. Papa says you can be very generous, but also retract the hand and be strict and harsh when needed. True. Empathy is rare nowadays, says Guacamole. Though I can attribute some of that to what you just said about the liars and with their fake sub stories to extract money from you. It's frustrating. Yeah, like, listen, this. I'm a very trusting person. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Though a big life lesson I've had is trusting the wrong people, says their family and friends to you. That's how I ended up being homeless, losing pretty much everything I had that I worked hard on. Spending Christmas on the streets is not a good thought. So yeah, that's why I'm a little more cautious around people. I'm just glad I haven't really leaned on being a total cynic when it comes to things. No, it's more of like I have to understand them first before committing. So, you've sent me a friend request. I will have to politely decline and ask you why first. I just want to be friends. Well, let that happen naturally then. Something like that. Crystal says exactly. I realized that a few weeks ago and it's really eating at me. I don't want to be like that. It's drama. Oh my god. Mm-mm. Cut it. Cut it off cleanly immediately. That word nurturing. I haven't yawned yet, Gray. Absolutely, definitely, 1,000,000% not fluffy. Has can't even see it. It's so small. Has put the decimals away. I need to resize this bar. It's a tad bit small and cluttered. My goodness. I'm glad we're getting it moving though. If I play, if things go well and I'm loved enough by the universe, maybe, just maybe, I may be able to achieve one of my dreams. I hope so. Okay, but I haven't seen any on it. Great. I am going to win the challenge 110%. I'm gonna put the $20 under the pillow that has writing on it for the Honda Africa Twin. Dumb question, says Rail. Is the music you're playing from the world you're in or a track you're playing? Spotify. I usually just like having a few tracks playing that won't get me copyright struck. Though sometimes copyrighted songs slip in. Lemongrass says, one of my dreams will be getting a decent enough following and technology to become a partner for one of the games. Good luck. Funny enough, I haven't been contacted for sponsoring anything here either, so I'm gonna go sleep, kuya. Inaantok no. Live translation go. I'm gonna go sleep, big bro. I'm already feeling sleepy and thank you for having me here. Stay safe and take care. I'll see you around, Chops. Rest well and good luck with your midterms later. Bye. This stream is brought to you by Rage. No, they did not pay me. Question is, what sponsored product would fit Geb the most? That is an excellent question, isn't it? I wonder what. You tell me, Chad. What product would be great, would be naturally fitting once integrated into my streams? Will it be a drink, an article of clothing, food, maybe an electronic peripheral? Number one I can think of is trackers, but I already have the vibes. Maybe if Flux Post contacts me, he can have the oh so exciting streamer that is just sitting wear one of their products. Yeah, I think it will be VR related. I'm also imagining maybe face tracking because that's what I sell on streams much more than my whole body. What's this? Crystal says, I would imagine CBD or massage chairs. Something relaxing. Maybe jazz vinyls. CBD? CBD again? CBD. Central Basketball District. Gotcha. Definitely a technological product. Honda motorbikes. I'm just gonna green screen myself and not shut up about it. I'm gonna fake like riding it. Yeah. Brown Enterprise. Flux Kappa. Yep. I'm a Radio Shack. Oh, probably programs. Central Basketball District. Sure. ABD here is the Central Business District. Nope, that was me acting out. You may have missed it. Here's an idea. Go ahead. I'm also surprised that Dragon model has paused. Yes, because this is a personal kit bash of mine. I am not a big fan of the default from the knee down of the Hydra and the hands too. That's what I was thinking. If I were to have a sponsorship of a product, either I would make a quick mock up of it in 3D, or they give me the file itself. I just don't like the default Hydra feet because it makes me look like a monkey. One of my pet peeves is having a thumb where it's not supposed to. Besides, I like this. It's very nice and sleek. It doesn't look like I have arthritis by any means. And the default Hydra hands, to those familiar with the avatar, is lacking one joint on the fingers, on all fingers. So when you close your hands, you can't close it. It's more of like the Yas girl the pose, where all of your fingers are just pointing down here instead of like curling up properly like this. You can't make a fist with it. Really turned me off. So the first thing I did when I got the model was go dig up my other avatar files, and yes. And then I had to tweak a bunch of stuff with the shape keys on the face, resculpt stuff here and there. Ended up with this one of a kind personalization I have. Is your model an OC of Persona? My model is me, chat. My lore is being written at present per stream. As you can see, I am currently stuck on the road with my vehicle unable to ferry me to my destination. And it's wonderful. Ah, yes. Thank you, Ben. There is no decimal, Beth, unfortunately. The taxi ain't running, the driver is as bummed as I am. Yep. Oh well. How dare you, Fluffy? Yep. That's going to. Oh, wait, no. The bar has to reach the halfway mark, and then anything past that is gonna go to the bike fund. There we go. I should have figured that out. How do I do that? Like, how do I segment it? Oh, I know how. Now I'm gonna make two bars. One is the survival fund, the bare minimum, in order for my ship not to sink, and then, yeah, okay. Anyway, don't worry about it. Isn't Fluffy supposed to be fighting for the decimal? I think he's starting to turn towards the other side. An investigation probably needs to be enacted for this act of treason. Concerning, is it? Maybe Nordex has secretly persuaded a certain Fluffy that isn't supposed to be here anymore into joining the forces of light. He is their wizard after all. Fluffy, don't make me report you to the democracy officer. Being like me yesterday, me, Vesper, and Beth were playing Helldivers. We were in the lovely planet of British butter called Ocean. We were curious how the local wildlife was doing, and of course, a Hive Lord popped out. It just so happened I was wearing my shield backpack and I got flung, I think, 100 meters away, somehow survived. Except the democracy officer deemed me a traitor for being outside the mission area and promptly started shelling me. Oh, it was such a lovely day. Vesper was having the most fun of all of us. Oh. I know, I'm not sure if I took a screenshot of that, Beth, where we were having to move the oil rig, right? We're supposed to drive. It just so happens the big old Hive Lord went whoosh, and then the truck was 100 meters into the air, and yeah, it counted as mission failed because we were outside the mission area again. Hmm. Speaking of Helldivers, if I remember correctly, there should be a patch sometime this week, I think, or next week on a Thursday. If they're going to go through with the October thing, right? Also, yes, I'm gonna hydrate. Also, on Monday, if I remember correctly, is season 10 of New World, which brings an overhaul on a lot of stuff and a nice new Halloweeny town called Night Haven. So much stuff this week and a half. And then there's Battlefield later. Ah, thanks for the hydrate. Don't you just love my invisible water bottle? Ah, yes. Curious, what's going on in general? I just had pizza, so why not do the same? Ah, okay. My community is communicating with each other, excuse me. I'm gonna reheat while I pack. Hey, Geb, see anything interesting? Nothing really. Blue is blaming our generous overlord for not working on the. Wow, right? Blue aren't you supposed to get things working, if I remember correctly? Oh my goodness, should I extend the punishment so he is already unable to join any official or unofficial meetups? If he does not get it working by this weekend, anybody within the community that meets up with him will receive the same punishment as Mr. Toast Sandwich. That should be a good motivator. There we go. So shall it be written, so shall it be done. Moving on. Bad life advice being redeemed by Crystal. Give me some words of wisdom, O oppressor of the light of light. Wisdom. About what? Something generic. Hmm. But bad life advice, my goodness. You know, I'm terrible at those things. Rafter spec. Don't worry. A food item's expiration date isn't really dictated by the label that it has on it. It's dictated by the taste. So go eat your week old spaghetti that's been left outside in the kitchen. It's probably fine. What do you know? You had the fermentation done for you for free. Ain't that the same way you make cheese and yogurt and whatnot? Don't be scared. Go eat. If you start visiting the throne 12 times during the same day, then hey, you got a free detox, right? It's the untalked about benefits of eating food that's been left out a little while. Best when it's like room temperature. Bad life advice, Jan. I do have some mead cooking downstairs. A couple of those bottles might have turned into vinegar. I would drink it straight up. I'm considering making ramen for my lunch today. Go for it. Make it. Make sure you get a do it Filipino style. You get your ramen, right? And then get an egg, raw egg, crack it open, just pour it over your nice hot soup until it's 30-40% cooked, and then enjoy it as is. Yep, I'm gonna go now so I can play music in the car. See you in a bit. Have fun. I mean, that's not bad life advice. That is truthful advice. I can't help but intermingle these two things. Gosh. Got no eggs in the economy. Mitzi, you know all of us have like a pair as backup for really dire needs. Hello, Gebus, says Blonda Dingo. Hope you have a nice day. You do? Hoping you do. A blonde dingo. I imagine you riding a Barbie car in the highways of Australia. I just saw your name and my first thought was no to somebody named Pay Your Taxes. You work for them though, says Axel. You know, this is true. Beth, actually one of the henchmen of those IRS sharks. I used to get a ton more when I was able to watch constantly in the background over the summer. Ah, is it because of the points you're farming? Everybody going for the esteemed 100k redeem. I wonder what it could be. I get paid by taxes, but I don't want pay my money back. You know what? That's true. For government workers, you shouldn't have like tax anymore. Just deduct it outright. It's because you're gonna give it back all the same. Right? Oh, lots of cracking in the vertebrae. You gain more based on your sub level. Oh wow. The stretchies. That's so good. I pay my tax on my income, says Guacamole, while in the US military, which is all paid for in taxes. No, that was not a yawn. That was me going. A yawn is, I'm going to illustrate what it looks like, okay? A yawn will look like this. That's a yawn. A stretch was different when I do that. See, Beth can cover. Litz, how are you? We miss you so much. It's been years since we've last seen you. Well, it's wonderful to hear you're still alive and typing. I was gonna say alive and kicking, but you know what I mean. See, how are you? Ready to hang out again? No, not yet, Evolved. Close, but not quite. My stretch was mistaken for a yawn. Dare them to try, says Beth. I've been hiding overseas for the last 7 years. Uh-huh. Shh, you keep it a secret. Rail Dog says, I'm gonna hop off here and get dinner started. See you later. Next time. Bye bye, Rail. Hope you have good food, man. But yes, I do miss my anime buddy Litz. It reminds me of this old PlayStation game I had. I think it was called Railroad Tycoon. Had a nice blues track playing on the background. That was surprisingly. I enjoyed the game. Like as your trains progress throughout the years, you have to either ferry passengers or cargo. Holding on. Hope you guys are doing well. Well, again, I'm not sure what is troubling you, but whatever it is, if it's your health, health potions. If it's your party mates, reorganize, we're just here. If you're in a high level area in which the mobs were too much to handle when you thought it was okay, there's no shame in going back to a lower level place. Go. Regardless, us, your friends, me, your friend, will always be here for you. You are company we enjoy. Be lovely to have you active again. So even Vesper agrees. I haven't been able to dork out on anime ever since. Be missing those bricks, according to Nor. Ah, yes. Rickety true that. I have no idea. Oh, I've been 1 hour and 42 into it. Oh no. Let's see. Let's see. Servers are full. 496,800 in the queue. Oh my goodness. Rare chat pics. What's this? Crystal has posted. Oh my goodness, it's Nord. I mean, the old Forpo. Okay. Yeah. Who's joined? Okay. Anyway, where were we? I felt like playing around with a few of the abbeys I have this morning. I have to. I figured you would have a bunch. Us, you, and what's his name again? Flake. Are connoisseurs of the true draconic form. I figured you'd be more attached to the likes of the Forepaw and the Dova. Oh god, the deer enemy is the Noko no. Yes, that thing. I'm not gonna sing the song. Yes, we still need to finish watching Romantic Killer, maybe the deer anime. Maybe, may chance. You fight Snake. Snake? Snake? Which snake? I would never dare fight snake if you're talking about that snake. Hmm. Oh, slippery snake. See, this is the problem with me lacking one of the docs I have over at OBS. I don't know what's happening unless I look at chat. I see, I see. Is the decimal still there? Yes, it is still there. The forces of darkness still is one upping. I could have sworn it was the forces of light that was winning this time. Hmm. Legless lizards with very nice smooth scales. The Inadra and the Hydra, they both have DRAs in the name. I've noticed. I have a lot of commissions and I get bored. Gotcha. Cats. Oh, I know who that is. Pussy Slither. Lit says, yeah, just wanted to hop in to give some signs of life. I think I'll be back sometime soon to fix that decimal. Well, I'll still be here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, next decade, and most definitely next century. Come back anytime. The Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. I'm not complaining. Questionable why there's Star Wars here. It's the forces of Fluffy. Yes. What? I'm fairly certain I'm going to reach the life extending technologies, maybe brain dances like in Cyberpunk, and I still very much wish to continue what I'm doing. And as people get utterly bored about me yapping, I don't see myself running out of stories anytime soon. As mentioned in my stream last time, when we were hanging out in this, me, Axel, Fluffy, and the others, there was a campfire that was giving you questions to have a conversation going. And one was like either have a cold morning shower every day or for 5 minutes keep a conversation going without any prompts. And then I remember laughing about it and said, you know, I do that pretty much like 9 hours a week. I, I have to keep something going and not just chatting stream. Brain dances using the firefighter training place. Yeah, definitely Fluffy's gonna be into that. Bored with you. Gosh. Welcome to joining me here. Ain't it fun? Ain't it lovely? Look at this. Ain't it so exciting? We're out here. Yes. Just outside the tunnel. What's this? My plan is to Walt Disney. Get frozen in a block of ice and be defrosted. Is that what Walt Disney did? Wasn't he defrosted in like New Vegas? And then he was like a shriveled guy who's afraid of bacteria. Oh wait, no, that's not Walt Disney. That's Mr. House. God damn it! Like that was Mr. House. You know, I have a feeling he is cryogenically frozen. Maybe. I don't want to be burned by any measure. I've told somebody I've entrusted, should I pass on, build me a shrine or like a mini mausoleum, put me on a throne, right? And then make sure I have armor on, I have a crown, and then I have a sword, and I'm like in a resting pose. right? So at least when I come back by any given chance, it better be good or vengeful. I look badass. You know, those like uh revenants, the whites, the reavers, the undead knights. That's so sick. Who wants to be like in a coffin forever? What if you're still aware and you're just there, like passing the centuries on? No, I'd rather be like in those games. Necromancy, yes. My plan is to have them rent a buckho and a bunch of. You go to stuff yourself in a watertight container, Beth, and fill it with beer. That's how you're gonna be preserved. You go. Oh, I got hungry. I have a chicken sandwich, chat. I have a chicken sandwich. Fantastic. What time is it? I'm not yawning. I'm not yawning. I'm just stretching. Oh my goodness. All that sitting. Not, not good for the back. Drunk for an eternity. That'd be so funny. And you end up being like a minor deity of the place, Beth. I don't even look like standing up. Yep, stretch. What kind of chicken sandwich, grilled or crispy? My chicken sandwich is crispy. It's from a place called Bonchon, a Korean place. It's nice and tender, has some spicy Korean sauce to it. Very thick too, like it's an inch or and a half thick. Wow, wow, wee, wow, what is this? A friend from AI Industries, or Stacey, I forgot. Long time listener, many time caller. Question: asking for a friend that's keen to use VR, but they have a bad leggy and is prone to running into walls. What should they do? Ah, yes, to have a bum knee when you are very much reliant on being active in VR, it's simple. The knee is only one component of your anatomy, right? So what you do is still put your foot tracker on, but make sure you get at least a small piece of 2x4 chop, probably a foot long or two. Have it on both sides, act as a splint. Wrap it with bandages so your knee does not bend, but you retain full range of motion on the rest of your legs. So when you walk, it's just like that. Bad life advice. There you got it. Right? Problem solved. You don't move the knee, but the rest of your body is able to move. And good morning, Mecca. Nice to see you. Why are you up so early? Thanks, Beth. Appreciate it. My goodness. Thank you. You know those prisoners in Metal Slug. Thank you. And then they give you a random heavy machine gun that they were hiding somehow. Heavy shotgun. Will I make it larger? There we go. Oh yeah, the layouts. There, perfect. Now, where were we? You're welcome. Thank you. How are you, Mecca? Are you gonna be in VR chat per chance in 30 minutes? I plan on lingering on for a little bit here before having to go play. Good old Battlefield. I should be about heck. I hope you're not doing any lead instructing with that funny leg of yours. Besides, it's a shame to be reprimanded by the hundreds of friends that are telling you not to. Ay, di na yon. We can... I'm thinking. Yes, we can meet up a little bit. Most doable. Rest, Meg. You should. Don't be like me. Don't be like me. Who's actively like stopping any yawns from going through. I'm watching you give. Yep. Mm-hmm. Are you boys still in BC? Yep, yes you are. Ah, look at Beth. Probably persuading Nord that I did not in fact yawn earlier. And I'm so hungry though. It's starting to sink in. Like, ooh. A chicken sandwich sounds good about now. Why is that sensor? Why is both of the S's censored? Oh my goodness. We're in BC but not really talking. Thank you. Pussy's litter. No. Fluffy here is still new to VR chat, right? I am worried about how dangerous his new persona can be. It is quite appealing, admittedly. What's worrying is that I know he's trudging on a path most red in light because of the clothing option that I've seen him wear. He only really wears presentable stuff when around me. But when I happened upon Fluffy unprepared, I saw what was not a shirt, but something that should only go around your waist or your thighs. A bunch of belts in a funny form around here, there, and whatnot. Fluffy says you gotta see the new texture. I really wonder what you say. We don't talk about my clothing options. If you can pop by VR chat, I'll be here for maybe 30 minutes or more. Gonna eat my sandwich. Invisibly. Oh. I'm gonna fight you, Fluggy. Fluggy. Sadly, not today, but it won't run away. That's true. You know, I posted my verses, my bike, on the marketplace. Somebody was lowballing me. It was... How much were they offering? 6K. It's like, what? No. That's like one fourth the price or 1/3. But yeah, I'm still in the process of having somebody give me a decent price for it. Once I have the new bike, where am I gonna go? I've been holding back from exploring. for the sole reason of me wanting to go explore with a new machine. You can finally do that solo ride to the beach on the east side of the country. Wonderful overlook, cliffs, rocks. 100+ kilometers of twisties. Did you say X amount or trade for Africa too? I have decided to go take your advice along with many of my friends who are aware of what I'm saving up for to just buy a brand new one. So I'm selling it for cash. I'm gonna go to Honda and I really hope they have one on cheap. I mean, the 2026 model should be coming out soon. They should price trap on the 2025 and, well, heck, even the 24. It's so nice. I need to buy a GoPro probably, like a cheapy one. I'm gonna go live stream. I'm gonna show you guys like the places I'm gonna explore. You're gonna hear me dork out like, oh, whoa, look at this sand, everybody. What? Yeah, I'd probably do that. Okay, maybe not stream. Unless you want to see it. It reminds me of Fluffy here with the I'm so bonita pictures posted, I think last month, to have riding buddies. Unfortunately, the only closest thing I have to a riding buddy, if I'm not mistaken, only has is a 125. I envy you guys who has buddies you can have on the intercom. Watch out for the corner, don't die. Anyway, I'm starting to drone on with the Africa Twin again. Kernel mode heap corruption. Oh no. Oh yikes, I remember getting that too before, but I'm gonna let the experts chime in on that before I say anything. Yeah, rest in peace. What Beth said. If it restarted and it works again, just don't think about it. Probably the best option. Hey, what do you know? Congratulations. Oh. Bessie's just making it worse. But for how long? That's true. It wasn't even the blue screen of that. It was a black screen. Kernel heap mode corruption. Yeah. There you have it. Mitzi with the answer. Mitzi with the glasses. Actually, that's not Vesper anymore as that time. Hey, Gabby, how has it been? Hi, Music Hog. I'm doing okay. Kind of hungry. Thought process is starting to slow down. But aside from that, I'm doing okay. I'm just here, waiting, outdoors. I'm always scared when a kernel panic happens because it may again. Swap May with Will. I'm just gonna contribute it to leaving it on for too long, says Axel. Vesper says, actually, I don't really know shit about computers past what Geb has taught me. Hey, at least you're like a sponge that absorbs knowledge. My computer runs for months without rebooting. I mean, there can be reasons why it happens. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just something to do with the kernel mode anti-cheats is having bugs with them. Maybe. You know, I used to run my PC on until I just have to restart it after like some major update, but then I saw my bill in my apartment, like here, the first electric bill. I was like, yo, yikes, yeah, blue light, we're turning that off. PC, I'm shutting you down each time I'm not using you. I hope the electric bill next month is lower by a good margin. Ugh. Vesper says, true. A coworker thought I was older than her, but it's only because I pick up information like a magnet to metal shavings. Oh my goodness. You know how hard it is to remove metal shavings from a smooth magnet? I remember my phone. No, I remember my wireless power bank dropping into some sand. When I picked it up, it was full of little iron filings and whatnot, and I, for the life of me, could not remove it completely easily. Beth says, yeah, my electric bill is paid for by the top. And you mean, no, You see this? Like that funny bar? 80% of that or 70 goes to electricity. No, the halfway up, so math. 30%, there we go, 30%. If only I had a rooftop, I could put some solar panels and it would offset the costs. Unfortunately, I do not have much sunlight, well, an accessible place for such. Beth, you're welcome. It's paid for by Axel, Mitzi, and Vesper. Beth's electricity. Solar rays still penetrate clouds. It's not the clouds I'm worried about, Vesp. It's the concrete. I'm gonna go pack my car. Driving come for a couple days. Good luck. Driving home, alrighty. Mitzi says my tax rate holding is actually too high, so I'm probably paying too many taxes currently. Doesn't mean they're just gonna refund you your taxes, Mitzi. Ain't that a nice chunk of money to look forward to? My tax return was 1.3. Oh, wow. Merry Christmas. You can buy like a Quest Pro or a big screen beyond with that thing. That was a big stretch. My back is starting getting sore because of my position. Because I'm like shrimping like this. Normally when I stream, I'm like this position. But yeah, it looks odd when I'm on a stool, and then I could, right? Imagine your tax return. Here is your money back, Sir Mitzi. You will most definitely probably spend on the headset that you've been longing for. Oh my. Let's get that new Valve headset. Let's get the Quest Pros that are really cheap nowadays and join your friends in the face tracking. The possibilities in which to spend it on. I wouldn't get the tax return until Feb. I think by that time that new headset would have released. So, right? you can get yourself a big screen. That's true. Beth is gonna get one. I'm waiting to see what valve is working. Though. That's me curious. If it has face tracking on it, that's it. I don't really have that much high hopes on big screen at the moment because their eye tracking software doesn't even track your blinking at the moment. Something as basic as blinking is not enabled. So that has me concerned. I'm not sure I can use it as a primary streaming headset, but I most definitely am sure it's going to be a comfortable headset to wear whenever you're just lying down in VR and taking in the scenery or chatting with friends and whatnot. It's a size in the it's so small. I'll still be waiting on the Deckard. Well, hopefully, if the Deckard truly does deliver on what it promises, we can get in. Elevate our VR chat experience. I have no idea when my Quest Pro might just die and then kaput, that's it. I can't stream anymore. Given a chance, I should have just ordered the second Quest Pro just in case. I mean, it just works despite its hiccups with the controllers. Unlike Vesper here as a new headset, mine is over 2 years old. I hope you brought a sweater or a long sleeve vest. A hoodie, perchance you can just put on, a jacket. I'd offer to warm you up, but unfortunately I'm on the opposite end of this globe. A travesty. Mitsu says my index is pushing 2 years or more, but I don't use it frequently. Never replaced anything yet. Here's the thing, I used my Quest Pro pretty much every other day. I even use this for exercise for a good year now. And I'm lucky it's still working. Yeah, I don't use the controllers anymore. The right one I cannot pair because the button is broken. Kendall says 3 for me. I still have the original cable. Ooh. Kevin says I personally use the PSVR 2. It's neat having a VR headset that I can use with my PS5 Pro and my PC. Vesper says, yes, I could be evil and put my hands on the back of your neck when you're... Oh, no. The most vulnerable part is when you put it here. You know cold fingers and then you put it in the tummy region? Ooh. Safe travels. See you around, Axel. Don't get hit and don't hit. I remember. During a swimming party with me and my college friends, I got some of the ice I had in my drink and I slid it down the butt crack of my friend. I snuck up from him from behind. It was funny. So yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Watch out for the people freaking out in the rain. Beth says, I'm going to miss wearing 2 bricks on my head over the Vive on the big screen. Right? I mean, I'm surprised you're able to bear with it right now, especially with your... No, you're not using your wands anymore. You have the funny ring finger issuey knuckles that I have too. The face tracking. The babble took me a while to recall. Dale hasn't shipped now that I think about it. Hmm. Come on, Babel. Where's the big screen beyond units? I'm not sure which one will get here first. I I need to look at alternatives. I mean, I can probably retrofit the Babel I have here, but I want one that's just plug and play. Nature's water cooling. If only nature's water cooling did not carry with it humanity's everything else that's not good on your skin. The e version should come out soon. Okay, disclaimer chat. Beth knows about this. I talked to him about it a few days ago. Now to think about it. I have a big screen beyond 2E. It should be here in a few days. It's in transit. Unfortunately, it does not have a facial tracker. So, we'll see how that works. It's something I've ordered, I don't know, earlier this year. I got the email a few days ago and I checked and it's like, oh, it's on. Okay. Thanks for the tracking. So you're gonna get feedback. Yeah, it's a new one. I got, because of my fear of not having a replacement headset in case my Quest Pro dies, I ordered it earlier this year. And as I've said, we'll see how that works. Unfortunately, we're not gonna have the Babel face tracker anytime soon because I got an email from Babel a few weeks ago saying, hey, we can ship your unit out now, but you're gonna have to power it externally for your Beyond 2. Or you can wait for the next batch in which the hardware has been solved to draw lower power and we can just work with that. I said, yeah, sure, I'll wait for the next batch. I don't know when that next batch is. To be fair, it would suck having like all sorts of like spaghetti on your head just to get power working on the Babel tracker, unlike the aux plug the big screen already has. Yeah. They didn't even send me that email. Oh. But you're probably gonna get it the same batch as me then. No surprises on this list. I don't know. I really have a feeling I'm just gonna use the big screen for the social VR part of things. Seeing as the facial tracking option is not here yet, it's gonna be weird though. I can't smile, I can't frown. If I print a new adapter and just use what I have. I'm mumbling to myself. Sorry. My goodness, 2 hours and 19 minutes. Oh, I don't have it yet. I just got an email. I just saw that it's in transit. So, a week maybe, a couple of days. Let's see how that goes. The eye tracking at present does not work the same way it does right now. The eye tracking there simply has eyeball rotation, I believe. It doesn't have eye wide, eye squint. It doesn't even have blinking. It doesn't have eyebrow tracking the same way I do. So it's more of a for convenience headset instead of something I actually can use for creating content with, which is what I'm pinning my hopes on should the Valve Deckard ever come to existence. Or maybe the Babel tracker might work great, who knows? Last time I tried it was wildly inconsistent. Then again, I've seen videos of it working nice and mm, cool on them. I have a side-by-side video of it, of the Quest Pro versus the Babel tracker on the same avatar I made sometime earlier this year. I have to look for it. I heard Valve is into the mass production phase. Same here, like 250,000 units per year or something. I really hope it's good. Yeah. Got some ham and pan. Oh, you have the Hawaiian. That's delicious. I wish I had some right now, bro. It's better than the brick of a Quest Pro I have on my head right now. The only reason why it's comfortable is because of the aftermarket padding and the good weight distribution, but it still very much is heavy. Oh, Beth, you're lucky you can cancel your big screen. Mine is. Should have gone to the Africa Twin instead. Oh, I could buy a set of panniers. No, actually, no. I can buy the crash guard and the skid plate. Never buy an adventure bike without proper protection. The bash plate underneath is super important. I can't even stress it. Rather have that absorb a blow from a rock instead of your crankcase. But they say a brick on their head at the gas station. I like how there's a little like narrative. Should have been like Axel, currently filling up gas. I mean, then you're gonna regret it, Mitzi. Oh, I should have ordered it a few months ago. Now I have to wait for so long and miss so many opportunities that I could have had now if only I ordered it more timely. You need proper protection both on and off the motorcycle. You know what? You're right. Let's say I have the funds for the bike. That's gonna come stock naked. And I don't even want to think of the cost. I'll probably just not ride it until I can afford to buy the accessory, the protection package. I'm sure my $20 jacket will be fine. It has like CE rated padding from China anyway. I mean, I couldn't really order it a month ago, says Mitzi, because I lost my roommate. Rest in peace. So budget went down that month. I understand. What's this? Axel says I was joking because I have a Quest 1. Literal brick on my face with no counterbalance. To have the kiss on your cheeks, yes. The weight is all over here. Hi there, Dallin. Quite enthusiastic, are we? Kidnap a new roommate. Yeah, you find one of the dorks in school, like, hey, buddy, don't you want to, like, live with a cool guy like me? Yes, good. Now pack your stuff and come to the door. Typical 90s bully. Because I'm drawing, so I'm in the mood. Good luck with your artistic pursuit of the day. Drawing. Oh, and I closed my overlay. Oh no. Excellent. See, that's a lot more talking, a lot less rope for kidnapping. I swear the roof isn't leak. I remember seeing the photos of the water coming out the electrical sockets. Now you need waterproofing much more than my place. Because that's bad. Me, I just had to board up my enormous window, my like 4 by 6 feet window, and I'm okay. Well, board up and like have 30 cans of spray foam and sealant. Gosh. Soon you're gonna see your wires start to chalk up, all that oxidation going on beneath the sleeves. It rained a bunch last night. Mm-mm. Speaking of music, Raincoat Waltz. AC unit sounds like it's dying. Outlets have no power, and the roof is full of water. Best I can do is 350. That doesn't sound so appealing now that I think about it. Yeah, copper oxide. Oh no. I was waiting to refill my tires and the pump broke. Time for a new gas station. Time for a new gas station. Will the balcony hold up if somebody stands on it? Good question. Oh, it's me. I think so. That depends, Mitzi. Are you a low calorie person or a high calorie person? Okay, then yeah, that's. Yeah, you see, Beth is a high calorie individual. The balcony might not hold him. Lots of gravity in that one. This. This ain't jazz. Oh my god. What is this? My god, wait, where's my old playlist? Sorry about that. Did not mean to have that play. It was already the eve, the hour of me having to go depart. It's fixed. We can go. Sweet. Okay. So tempted to just lie down, relax. After this song, maybe I'll go. You know, I've thought of a stream, like doing a stream before, and it's not a sleeping stream, but it's just chill while Gab does stuff, sort of stream. I have things out tab, I have my music playing. Less focus on chat and just look what I need to look at. A working stream. I did some impromptu Unity work the other stream, and it's not something I want to do again. I mean, yeah, it could work, but it would be boring. I will not be as attentive to stream chat. Oh my god, now Fluffy just had to post picture of a good looking pizza. Oh, the little crispy parts in the end. Oh, the cheese. What is that? Seared mushrooms? Mmm, tasty. I'm gonna go scream to some music. See ya, Gab. See you around, Axel. As I've said, keep the pedestrians and yourself safe out there. Gab never yawns. No, I didn't yawn. Promise. Swear. I even look like cleaning this bag. Join me as I go browse for stuff. Add stuff. Oh. Okay. It's my Discord streamer. The data in the stream is area so horrible. I thought the stream exploded, but at least I'm back. Welcome back. My stream is officially over. You're just joining me for me listening to music.
Almost doing things we used to do. There's a girl here and she's almost you. Almost all the things that you promised with your eyes.
Thanks for joining me today. If you have places to go, things to do, by all means. Don't let me hold you back.
Eyes are red
Yes, to have myself in an awkward position because of me losing tracking to my waist.
almost blue.
Come on, buddy, recover.
Flirting with this disaster became me. It named me as a fool
I thought that was your outer music.
to be
I should be gone soon.
almost blue. Almost touching it will
Will it recover if I
almost
stand?
do.
Ish.
There's a part of me that's always true. Always. All the things that you promised with your eyes, I see in her.
There we go.
Now your eyes are red from crying. Almost you,
Ah, I see.
almost me. Almost blue.
Alright, chat, as much as I want to linger longer, I know I gotta go, and so do you. Battlefield comes out. Well, yeah, it did come out today. Also, what is up with that clipping? Okay, that's gonna get worked on. It's been fun today, chat. I will see you again on Monday, yes. Most definitely. Good late stream. Yes, very late. It's 5:54. So with that being said, chat, I wish you a good day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, chat. Have fun this weekend. I know you guys are gonna play. I know I will. Ah, God, I actually completed the challenge.
completed.
And Nord is a dragon of his word, ever so noble. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I will see you, Music Hog, Blue, Zephyr, Crystal, Mitzi with a delightful tooth cleaning tomorrow. Now I can yawn. It's not coming out. Oh my goodness, somebody wants to join me, okay? That's Mecca. And make sure you play lots of games. Of course. Of course. Of course. So yeah. Oh, I didn't even know Dorn was still here. I am. So yes, farewell. I'll see you around, Beth. Maybe we can play later. Let's see. I shall have to enable secure boot so that warrants a BIOS and BIOS tweak and they restart now. Now we can yawn. I'm trying. I'm waiting for it to go happen. Dawn is in the process of giving their soul to the snail. Enjoy. See you, Waffle Carp, and everybody else. I'll get this OBS thing sorted out. Mhm. What are you doing? Chew? It's done. I see Beth immediately started BF6. It's like, finally, Gabe's done. I can play. Go, shoot. Bye bye, chat. I'll assume everybody's gone. I have no idea how to check how many viewers I have, so let's assume it's in the low 5, 4s, maybe 3s. Mhm. Yep. I'm off to get my chicken sandwich. Let's see. Oh my, that's a lot of white. Oh, camera.
Oh! Diva!
Nice chat. Yes, that is Mecha. You're hearing everyone. Just decided to come drop by and say hello.
Hi.
Hi. How are you doing? Wow, I look odd in this
Yo,
lighting. So yeah, say hello to chat while
Cool.
I'm saying
Okay.
goodbye.
Hi, chat. Hope you're vibing over there with Gib. Oh my gosh, yes. It looks like a nice little evening at the moment out there. Or it could be the morning. I mean, it makes sense if it's the morning.
He has a bum leg and shouldn't be moving around. Ain't that right, Mr. Tendon?
Correct. I tried that life advice where no too slowly
Bandage.
scraping away to it. But I'm just keeping an eye on how you been going with chat.
I'm good. I just ended stream. I don't know why these people are still here, but yes.
Oh. Well, how? My goodness. Let's have a. Oh wow, that's a lot of people, and that's a lot of people saying hi, Mecha. Wow, that's me. Oh.
I have no idea how many
That's
viewers
you.
there are. My OBS is bro. How many viewers are there?
You currently have a total of 38, I think. Whoa.
Oh.
Hello,
I
everybody.
thought I said goodbye. Shoot. Go do your things.
I mean, there's cool stuff in the room over there. They probably have fun in that room. There's like what looks like a
Just toss them
musical
there.
instrument, and there's like technology and
Shit. Oh, where's
other
my things?
things.
Oh, it's set up.
There's probably some RAM sticks in there.
It's up here for it.
At least I
There you
imagine
go.
there'd be some RAM sticks. Oh. They've managed to put a lot in this room.
Watch me air sit. No. It has to be CCTV view. There we go.
Oh. We have the technology. Then just make it a time lapse where we're running around back and forth, mainly to the fridge.
With the- yes. Okay.
Fridge.
There we go. I have the glitch effect on. So. Right? So stream's over. They can't hear
Oh,
whatever we're gonna
that is-
talk about.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Right.
Goodness gracious.
Anyway, what were you up to? Were you dancing or what?
No, I wasn't dancing, thankfully, though as tempted as I
Laughing and
was.
dancing.
Gotta rest the leg.
Mhm.
There was a little event happening, I think, so I quickly passed by to say hello. But then I realized you're streaming now. That's I can go. That's when I'm awake. So that's kind of neat.
That's true. I started very late. I reformatted my computer last night, so I had to reinstall
Oh, crikey.
everything. 3 hours, 2.5 troubleshooting. I didn't know I had to repair all my trackers too and whatnot. Space calibrator wasn't behaving.
That's a lot to do. But you've done it, and it looks like it's worked for Twitch. Hello. So good work.
Yes, at least that's done. Now I'm kind of hungry. I'm tempted to go nom on the chicken sandwich I have at my fridge.
Ooh, that's fair. That's fair. Hang on here. Let me check the fridge. That'd be kind of neat if you had a world that could like update to show what you've got. Oh, that'd be technology.
And it actually
So you open
spawns
your
us.
fridge in VR without actually opening your fridge. That way you save on power and stuff. I don't know. Technology.
Speaking
Maybe,
of
maybe
power.
too much technology.
Omega, how much is your electric bill for a family of whatever size you have in Australia?
Oh, well, for the three of us over here, it's trying to remember. I think it was per either quarter or twice a year, but it was a fair bit, and it has been going up. I think it's
quarter.
still in the triple digits, but it's getting close to going up. Yeah, because
To 4?
with the it's getting close to 4 digits. Yeah.
Oh my
which,
goodness, that's
eesh.
expensive. Why is it that expensive?
Well, there's 3 of us, and one in the household very much likes to have the heater on, even when it's not necessary.
That would be me. Okay.
Unfortunately, but yes. Though to be fair, the computer does act like a heater. All you have to do is route that all the way to where they are. So that'd be kind of difficult.
Just put
But
the
yeah.
the ventilated ducting and the little booster fan.
Exactly.
But all that excess wattage to good
mhm.
use.
That's right. Oh, that would be fascinating. I think somebody tried to warm up a actual pool or something by using their computer, but it turned out they had a server, so it kind of worked.
Hold on, I'm moving a second camera.
Oh,
CCTV.
okay. I mean, we can go in there if you want. That looks like a
No,
much
no,
more
they-
relaxed
this-
lighting.
This is perfect.
Oh, okay. Did you hear that weird noise? I heard a weird noise.
There's
As long as
that,
it's not boss music, we're
there's
fine,
that.
right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Right,
that's
chat?
true. That's it. Hi Nord, where's your
Oh.
Dova?
Well, hello. Dude.
I can't hear you, friend.
Hello.
Hi,
Oh,
I
now we
didn't
can
feel.
hear. Hello.
Excuse my voice. I'm still a bit sick.
Before you walk into frame with the big watermark above. Do you hear
Yeah, I'm
Nord?
trying
No,
to
no.
stay
you
out
don't.
of-
That's a perfect plan. Yes, that is
Goodness
Nord.
gracious.
Indeed.
How are you doing, no?
Doing good.
God, he sounds like a dad that he's actually not doing good. Like, hey dad, I just got home from school. How are you doing? I'm doing good. And he knows you failed like a subject
I hope you
in
feel
school.
better.
You know,
I
you
know you
you
didn't
did.
do your homework.
Yeah,
Bruh.
exactly. That's how I'm perceiving it. Yes. I've never heard Nord's point. What do you mean? He's been in that meetup since before, Mitzi.
Judging by how bright it is, I should probably investigate what it's like outside as well. It is equally sunny. VR is nice to relax. Yes. Though I want to dance so much. Oh, good heavens. I'm curious what's over here. Ah,
Checkity check. There we go. My mic died. I had to replace it. Hold on. Guess nobody heard what I just said. Oh, it was an important tidbit about Nord and meetups too. Oh well. There we go. Nice and clip. Now, where were we? Right. The post stream. Stream is overshoot. There's nothing stream cameras got. I wonder why this still persists. These chatters need to go.
Yeah, let me just show.
What stream? There's no more stream going on. Exactly.
I mean, we're just hanging out in Gabe's apartment at the moment here. It's
Yep.
That's what we do.
I just
You
got
got
the
some crispy
swords.
breakfast there, apparently.
I'm
Um,
just sort my electronics out. I don't
Speaking
know.
of
These
sorting
guys don't want to leave.
electronics- whoa, there's a lot here.
What are we?
You got
Yep.
a heckin' big electric blender back there, fam. Holy moly. You know, there's a few things over there. Oh yeah, hi. Wait. Oh, hi. Don't want to let the draft in.
But yes. Anywho, I know you're still there. I'm gonna end the stream. I'm gonna say goodbye, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I will see you Monday. Bye. How this is free off-camera streams? Yes. A little extra per se, but toodles, everyone.